want to thank all the other speakers because they did such a great job of setting up all these different things that affect orcas. But I want to let you get to know our orcas a little bit. And the first thing I want you to know is that we actually have 3 different types. We call them ecotypes here in the Pacific Northwest. The first, transients. These are the marine mammal-eating killer whales. And you can see a pretty dramatic scene here of a transient killer whale going after a Dall's porpoise here in Puget Sound. They're in very small groups. Next, offshore killer whales. Not surprisingly, these are further offshore generally. And we have limited information about this type of killer whale. We think they eat large fish, including sharks. And one of the ways we know this is because we've found offshore killer whales with very worn teeth from eating that shark skin. And they live in very large groups. We see them far offshore in huge groups. The third type are resident killer whales. These are the whales that are most common here right in Puget Sound. And this time of year, they were actually off Seattle just last week. And the southern residents are the ones here in Puget Sound. We also have some neighbors up to the north, the northern residents that are in Canadian waters, and they also resident whales go over to Alaska and Russia. And these are fish-eating whales. So you heard about chum salmon, some of the fish that these whales like to eat. They also like Chinook salmon in particular. So we know about these 3 different types of whales through genetics, through these different behavioral differences that I've told you about. And there's one other way that we can tell these whales apart. We use photo identification because they look a little bit different. Their fin shape, their dorsal fin, has a slightly different shape for these different types of whales. And not only can we tell these 3 types apart, we can tell every individual whale apart. Did you guys know that orcas have fingerprints? Each whale has a really unique dorsal fin and saddle patch pattern. So that saddle patch is this mark right behind the dorsal fin, sort of a black and white pattern. We've got open saddle patches like this one, or a closed saddle patch, mostly white. We can look at those unique saddle patches, and they can even be different on the right and the left side, so really unique patterns. And we also look at the dorsal fins. We look at the fin size, their shape, and also nicks and cuts. And this is from behind a whale that has a really unique shaped fin with a little wave down the back. So taking pictures of these whales and being able to tell them apart, what kind of information can we get from that? We can learn about individual identity. We number and name each individual whale in our southern resident population and other populations. And we can learn about how old they are, what family groups they live in. We've learned that these whales, when they have calves, the moms, those sons and daughters stay with the mom their entire lives. They live in these matrilineal groups, sort of led by the mom. And we've been able to learn this through photo identification and telling each individual whale's story. Looking at dorsal fins, we can also tell males and females apart. Do you guys see a difference in the shape and size of this fin, this tall, straight one, versus this shorter, curved one? The males, when they're adult, they can have a dorsal fin that's 5+ feet tall. And females and juvenile males also have a shorter and a little bit more curve to their fin. So just by looking at these whales and taking photos of these natural markings, we can learn so much. We can also learn about reproduction. We can learn about moms and calves. When a baby is born, it stays with mom. And because of that close connection, we know who the mom is. And because we've been studying these whales for 30 years, we know how many calves she's had, how they've done, how they're surviving. All kinds of great information. And we use this information, we put a catalog together. Each year, the Center for Whale Research, a research group on San Juan Island, they create a new catalog, they update all the photos of the fins and the saddle patches, and we know what's happening to the whole population. We can count each whale and do an annual census and track. Are they increasing? Are they decreasing? We can track individual whales and also their pods. Here we've got J, K, and L pod broken out in the total southern resident population. And you can see this decline in the late 90s. This is a population that's now been listed as endangered under the Endangered Species Act. And we can track how our management efforts and how our recovery efforts are going. We can see if we're moving in the right direction. So this was just one tool that we use to get to know orcas, but I'm going to tell you about a couple other ones. First of all, we've got cool trading cards, and I'm going to have them at my table, so come by and pick up a few and ask me some more questions. And come to Family Science, Discover Science Weekends.